She walked into the boardroom wearing a second-hand blazer and shoes so worn their soles whispered with each step. Her voice was quiet, her slides simple, her posture slightly hunched from years of being overlooked. Around the table sat a dozen polished professionals, men in tailored suits, women in stiff blazers, all eyes glazed with premature dismissal. And at the head of the table, the boss leaned back, fingers steepled, lips curled in that smug half-smile he reserved for ideas he didn't think mattered. When she began to speak, no one listened. They were too busy exchanging glances, smirking behind hands, their minds already crafting polite ways to reject her idea. But she kept going, her tone steady, her idea innovative, an AI-integrated, predictive model that could save the company millions in operational waste. The boss cut her off mid-sentence with a laugh, so sharp it echoed against the glass walls. "We don't need pipe dreams from interns who still ask how the coffee machine works," he said, dismissing her with a wave. The room chuckled. The meeting moved on. Her name wasn't even recorded in the minutes. What no one knew, as she gathered her papers in silence, was that the woman they had just mocked had once lived in the back of a car for nearly 2 years. She had washed up in gas station bathrooms, eaten crackers for dinner, and studied business analytics at night using borrowed Wi-Fi from cafe windows. She had taught herself everything from code to corporate law. And the idea they mocked? It wasn't just a concept. It was already built, already tested, already outperforming industry standards in a small startup she was quietly growing under a different name. She had taken the job at the company not out of need, but out of strategy. She wanted access to data, real data, not just simulations, and she knew they had it. She played the part of the eager junior employee, took notes no one read, sat in meetings where her silence made her invisible. Every insult, every rolled eye, every overlooked suggestion was fuel. And she never said a word in response. Because the woman they thought they were laughing at wasn't her final version. She was still becoming. Over the next few months, the company began to struggle. Costs rose. Predictions failed. Competitors surged ahead using smarter tools. The board demanded change, but the leadership refused to admit fault. One by one, investors began to lose faith. Shares dipped. Morale plummeted. But far away, quietly, she was building, hiring, scaling, perfecting the very model they'd dismissed. And then one morning, everything shifted. The company announced it was entering acquisition talks. It was the only way out. Anonymous interest from a private buyer had emerged, offering a generous purchase, enough to save face for leadership, enough to calm the restless board. No one questioned it too hard. Desperation has a way of dulling curiosity. On the day the sale was finalized, she returned. Not in a second-hand blazer this time, but in tailored black, with quiet power radiating from her every move. The same boardroom, the same table. But now, all eyes were glued to her with nervous attention. She took the seat at the head, folded her hands, and looked around the room. No one spoke. They couldn't. "I'm not here for apologies," she began, her voice calm but razor-edged. "I'm here for change." The old boss, now powerless, looked like he might speak, but thought better of it. She didn't need revenge. She had something far better, control. But what no one knew, even then, was the full extent of her plan. Because she didn't just want the company. She wanted to rebuild it from the ground up. She wanted to hire those the world had ignored, people like she once was. Formerly incarcerated. Immigrants. Mothers returning to the workforce. Veterans. Dreamers. Quiet warriors who had been told no too many times. And she didn't stop there. Her startup, now merged with the company, had built tech that was rapidly being adopted across multiple industries. Investors who once turned her away were now pleading for meetings. She spoke at summits. Her story trended on every major platform. Hashtag from mockery to millions and hashtag silent CEO topped the YouTube and TikTok charts. But the final twist wasn't what she gained. It was what she gave. Because after all the success, after all the press, she visited a small shelter, the same one where she'd once begged for a bed, and donated enough funds to run it for 10 years. No cameras. No headlines. Just a quiet visit, a small smile, and a whispered thank you to a night staffer who once gave her hot tea on a freezing night. The world knows her now as a disruptor, a visionary, a tech genius. But she's still that quiet warrior. The one who walked into a room full of doubters and left owning the building. And somewhere in the silence she once knew so well, others are watching, waiting, becoming. Because strength isn't always loud. And the ones you mock today might just own your tomorrow.